Hello, this is Sean Taylor for Blues in Britain as part of the How Musicians Work series, in which I get to interview amazing artists about their craft and the magic that they create. Today, I am joined by a wonderful singer, fantastic songwriter, and a superb performer who I've seen play live a couple of times now, and she's absolutely fantastic. And has a great album out that we're going to talk about in a minute. So welcome, Miss Alice Armstrong.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's good to see you. What's been happening?
What hasn't been happening is probably the shorter list. Just so many gigs, and it's been a mental year. I thought last year was pretty crazy because I think I did some upwards of 72 or so gigs. But this year is maybe a couple less gigs, but many more countries and places. So I live in my car now, and it's been pretty phenomenal actually.
That sounds a great year. Can we talk a little bit about the album Love, Sex, so the EP Love, Sex and Death, which is wonderful. I really like it. Could you talk a bit about how it came to be and how it was recorded and whatnot?
Well, how it came to be. I it's it's a combination of me wanting to release my music, a piece of me, and put it out there. We all want our music to be heard, otherwise we would just play in our rooms, I guess. So I wanted to be able to share my stuff and put a little bit of me out there. But at the same time, I am self-funded. It's all comes from my hard work and my own money, which of course anyone who is a musician knows that's a limited resource, as it is with most things. And so what I did was I had an amazing team of incredible people who all said yes to me, because I had the absolute audacity to ask some of my favorite musicians to play for me, and they all said yes, which was just wild. And they were incredibly generous with their time and skills, and we just had an amazing time. I had a lot of fun and put together some singles, released the singles, and then we released Speed Dial first, which did really well, and I was much better than I was expecting it to. I thought I would just be sort of screaming into the void and sending things out there and never hear from them again, but it did much better than I expected, which was just wonderful. So I decided to put them all into one disc where people could buy a copy, so something tactile to hold. It's only a 6-track EP. One of them is an short a cappella number. I don't want to do a full album yet. I want to wait until I have a cohesive collection of songs that I really think are worthy of a first album. But until then, I'm going to release singles and EPs and just take my time and not rush anything. So yeah, I thought I'd release a 6-track EP and just hope that it resonates with people.
It's really great, and I love listening. I was listening this morning, and it's got a great range to it. Because I mean, if there's a number of tracks I picked out, and I mean, grab my notes, and I love the lyrics. I'm jumping around, but I love that line, "Upbeat baby, every inch of me is blue." That's a great line. Could you talk about
Thank you
that?
very much. Yeah, I mean, that lyric, it starts off that I was born a shade of yellow, because I actually was born with quite severe jaundice
Oh.
and suffered from that for about 2 weeks or so. I think it was a bit touch and go in places. So yeah, I was literally yellow as a baby. And then it's sort of, that lyric celebrates surviving and right from the beginning being given a challenge before I was even a conscious being, as it were, and surviving that to then go on and be an absolute show off and attention seeker as a child.
Nothing wrong with that.
um, and soaking up absolutely everything my parents played at home. There was very little white music white music played at home. And even when it was bands like UB40 who are just playing music taken from the African American community.
Midlands reggae band.
Reggae, yeah, exactly. Afro-Caribbean community. And yeah, so I just soaked up so much of this incredible collection of artists that my parents played obsessively as I was growing up. So yeah, it's about going from a jaundiced, weak, tiny, premature baby to being a more robust blues lover.
It's a great song. It's a great opening, and I mean, I love the way your voice comes in on that song. It's like it just drifts in like a kind of almost like a Hammond organ type wash. I know it's a strange description, but I really like the way you do that. And I remember when I first heard you play live, it was at Carlisle, and it was great. And I thought the range of influences on your voice was really interesting because I can hear the blues and the soul in there. And then I could hear there's kind of almost at times a gospel kind of thing going on. I know it all connects all these kinds of music, but then the way you hold notes, it's really interesting. And the way you phrase, I find as a singer really interesting to listen to. Is that something you've consciously done, or is it just changing all the time, or what? How does it work?
I find that if I plan a vocal run, or I think about it in advance, or I think about my technique too much while I'm singing, I will go wrong. If I think about it too much, it all falls apart. So when I'm on stage, I'm not really thinking. It comes out of me. I've learned to let it just come out freely and naturally. I imagine there could be some technique improvements I could make if I did some conscious thinking, I suppose. But it probably will come with practice, but I'm a little anxious to do that because, like I said, if I overthink too much on stage, it comes out wrong and I will hit a bum note. It does happen.
It sounds amazing. I meant it as a compliment.
No, I didn't mean that. I'm just trying. I'm people ask me certain things about my technique, and I can never answer because I don't. I think if anything, my technique's probably bad. I haven't had a lesson since my classical singing lessons many years ago, and so I sing freely. But like I said, growing up, I would listen to this music at home, and then I discovered Aretha Franklin, and I discovered Etta James and Janis Joplin, of course, and all these incredible singers, Dinah Washington, and then also male singers, B.B. King and Freddie King and Otis Redding, Donny Hathaway, Joe Cocker, and I would soak them up, and it was a game for me to recreate them note for note. So I would listen to things obsessively over and over and over again. And just like a guitarist would when they're woodshedding, I would learn a song note for note and see it as a challenge to sing all the way through and match every single note. So that's how I learned a lot of the gospel and soul and blues vocal runs, is because I have consumed them to such a degree that it's almost muscle memory, I think. And I also did that with, I keep telling anyone who'll listen, bear with me when I say this, there is an incredible performance. It's the first ever live performance of Mariah Carey from 1992, MTV Unplugged. And it's the only really performance or music of hers I actually listened to. But my mum played it when I was a kid. And I absolutely, the performance is phenomenal. Wow. You can find it on YouTube. Mariah Carey released a load of music. She was very shy about being on stage, lots of stage fright, and lots of press said that she couldn't recreate those high notes and sing like that live. She was just a recording artist. So she finally worked up the courage and did this 1992 MTV Unplugged performance. The band is so tight. The backing vocals are so tight, and the arrangements are beautiful. And she just sings flawlessly. And so when I was younger, I became hardcore obsessed with this short performance and learned that note for note as well. And it's things like that, just becoming obsessed. and copying something, copying the masters, as it were. Some people may cringe at me calling Mariah Carey a master, but
I was not expecting that. Sorry to interrupt you. I was not expecting that name. I was thinking Janis Joplin was going to be the. Obviously, I can hear that.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I was not expecting Mariah Carey. I'm thinking, Mariah Carey. I mean, I don't know her music, but I know the high notes. I hope you had double glazing.
This is the thing. Yeah, precisely. This is the thing. This performance cannot be compared to the rest of Mariah Carey's stuff.
Right.
Mariah Carey, I respect her as an artist, of course. It's like, but she is known for her pop, overproduced pop studio stuff, which is very popular and very catchy, and in its right environment is awesome, of course. But no musician, I feel, can watch that particular live performance and scoff. It is incredible. I recommend it.
I'm gonna when we finish this interview, I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, do. But considering I grew up in the 90s as well, so I was a kid in the 90s, and so learning that performance, note for note, was very helpful. I learned so many of Aretha Franklin's tracks note for note, and I still could sing it. I mean, I'd like to think that I can copy it note for note, and things like that. I think a lot of people think I learned a lot of stuff from Janis Joplin. I learned a lot more about who to be as a person in the music industry from Janis Joplin rather than her style. Obviously, I wear these round glasses, so I get compared to Janis a lot, mostly because I have to wear these so I don't get migraines and things, because I'm extremely sensitive to light. And when I first learned I had to wear these glasses, I looked at the official ones I'm supposed to have. It's like an FL-41 or something, but they're all so ugly, and I thought, I can't wear those on stage. So I decided to get these instead, because they're so they're much more me, but also they are representative style wise of the kind of music that I love. So I get compared to Janis Joplin a lot because, as one of my friends likes to say, some people just listen with their eyes.
Hang on, I that's not why I compared you to Janis Joplin. I've seen you perform.
Oh,
I've seen you on stage. I'm teasing you. I've seen you perform live, and you've got that intensity of Janis, which is amazing, and it's the way you hold an audience. You give everything on stage, and that's why it's not the glasses. I'm not that shallow.
I said Janis Joplin before you did.
I know, I'm teasing you. Well, it's good. There's a whole load of names you mentioned there, and it's the one thing I kind of kept coming back to was soul music, and it's the second track on the record, which I've made notes of all over the place. Better late than never, I think, if that's right. It's really that sort of 60s soul, great 60s soul. The kind of it's an arpeggio guitar. The kind of what song am I thinking of? It's read in it's that Love, one of his songs with anyway. He has loads of Otis Redding songs with that kind of arpeggio guitar sound. And Sam Cooke as well obviously uses that. Try a little tenders. It's not that one anyway, but it's that soul sound, the wash of the Hammond, and that's a big thing on what you do, isn't it? It feels a big influence.
Yeah, absolutely. All the sort of stack style records, absolutely love. I grew up. Yeah, my taste is incredibly eclectic, so I try my best to write songs that are a consistent genre, but it's just not how they come out. So because my influences are all incredibly eclectic, no matter how hard I try, all my songs will come out different with very different personalities. Better late than never, absolutely. I actually wrote that as a love letter to Aretha Franklin. I didn't discover her per se, because my father was playing her on repeat constantly as I was when I was a child at home, especially summer holidays with the back doors wide open and I'm down in the garden, and Aretha is just blaring from the house all summer. But when I was about 13 or so, I sat with my Sony Walkman on a school bus on the way to a school trip or whatever, and just properly sat down and just listened to her for the first time on my own. Wow. And I think from that point forward, I was hardcore obsessed. And Better Late Than Never is a song about finding love for something or someone later than expected, but at least you find it in the end. And I know a lot of people wouldn't think 13 or 14 is all that late.
That's a nice story. So what was it like at school when you had a really, because I remember I used to listen to really odd music, not odd music, but I actually did listen to a lot of weird experimental music when I was young. People thought I was out there. But what was it like? I remember, I think at school people would always say, give me an ear, and you'd have to give them like your headphone thing, give you an ear.
Yeah.
Did that happen to you? Did people say, what you listen to?
I mean, probably not, because I was also the weird kid that was always sat at the front with the teacher with a bucket between their legs on the coach.
Oh no.
Totally classic. But no, I think everyone knew that I listened to old stuff, that, you know, everyone else was listening to things like Britney Spears, NSYNC and things. I did listen to Christina Aguilera quite a bit, actually, around that time. But I think maybe you can definitely see the influences on Christina Aguilera of old school blues and soul and jazz and stuff. So Destiny's Child, I was hardcore obsessed with Destiny's Child as well. And I remember hearing Edge of 17 properly for the first time and thinking, wait a minute, this guitar is from Bootylicious. So yeah, I think even the more contemporary stuff that my fellow kids were listening to at the time, I would be more drawn to the artists that were absolutely more influenced by the soul and blues end of the spectrum.
It all connects, man. It all connects. I think all this
music.
Christina Aguilera does, I admit, have an amazing voice.
Sure.
And Beyonce too. Another track on the album I want to ask about is Graveyard. I really like that looped vocal thing you've got going on. Could you talk a bit about how that happened and what?
Yeah. I don't play any instruments, not through lack of trying. I know enough guitar to play the odd chord, usually write some kind of 4-chord repeated song, and then bring it to an actual musician who can help me make it a little bit more complex. So when I was stuck in lockdown, stuck at home, I was doing a lot of projects with musicians via the internet, via Zoom and things like that. But I was also, you know, you're still sat around with so much time on your hands. So I started making a little YouTube series called What a Joke. And I would just make a 15-minute episode once every 2 weeks of me doing different segments, mostly to entertain myself. But I did have a couple of people watching, which was very nice. Each week, I would create a song out of a sound effect I found online or recorded myself. So in one instance, I had recorded myself hitting a variety of glasses, using things from the kitchen, salt and pepper shakers, you know, to create a drum beat and things like that. One of them was Bird Song, which I chopped up and turned that into a tune and things like that. Graveyard Shift came about because I found a recording online of somebody digging a hole with a shovel.
Oh wow.
And I put that on loop.
Yeah.
And it creates this chain gang kind of beat. Yeah. So I start humming to that. I'm doing all this in GarageBand, you know, GarageBand.
Wow.
With what I have at home. I recorded myself singing, humming this particular droney kind of background, and wrote a song to it that was encompassing all of my feelings, being stuck at home, worried about how I'm going to afford my next meal, people dying in droves around us, and it was a hard time. I don't need to, you know, explain that to anyone. So I poured all of my anxiety and sadness over that really difficult time into this song, and that's how Graveyard Shift came about. And then I had this really rubbish demo of it, which I put into this at that week's episode of What a Joke. And when it came to recording singles and then eventually the EP, we got in the studio and properly recorded it. And one of my favorite parts of that song is the beat that you can hear, the chain sound. That was created. We were in the studio. We were trying to figure out how we were going to replicate the sound of people walking along with chains on their feet and things like that. Really give that beat a really hard push. And the fabulous Josh Regal from Forge Studios, who's my wonderful bassist, we were recording at Forge Studios, and he had this amazing idea. He just suddenly went, right, I've got a great idea. And before I know it, he's running around. He's found this big cardboard box. He chucks everything out of it, papers and things, just turns it upside down. And he starts rushing around and he's chucking things back into it. He throws keys. We all put our keys in. Take off all my necklaces and my rings, and they all go into this box. And we've got a picture of it somewhere. And our drummer, fabulous drummer, Kev Hickman, he goes in and starts using that as a percussion instrument. So that sound that you can hear on the song of chains on the beat is literally just a big cardboard box filled with all of our personal belongings, keys and necklaces and jewelry, and a pair of my glasses, actually, which was probably a bad idea. But
did they break?
No, but all of my glasses have scratches now. I'm terrible. I can't for the life of me keep a pair of glasses immaculate.
That's like a Tom Waits story. I like that. It's great.
Is it? No, yeah.
He does mad recordings with different banging different things.
Yes, we did try. Josh has got a collection of really cool bits and bobs on top of a piano there. Lots of beautiful shells and stones and like animal skulls and things. So we did try a number of other things, like using a bone against a jaw, an animal bone, animal skull jaw, to kind of create a sort of you know those frogs with the ridged backs that you make a kind of croak sound with, those like wooden instruments in the shape of
I was thinking of an actual frog. I've never.
No.
I'm totally confused now. You've completely lost me. No, I've never seen that.
I'll show you a picture after this.
Okay, I want to see this now.
And there's a little percussion instrument. It's a wooden frog with a ridged back, and you kind of run a stick across it.
Okay.
Kind of almost croaking sound. But we were using this jawbone to try and recreate that, but it didn't. If anything, the tone of it was too high, so we couldn't use that in the end. But I really do hope to revisit that idea, because really, the what I like to call the recovering goth in me really appreciates that kind of thing.
Absolutely. So how does it work? You've got you have a band that's because quite a lot of the guys from Catfish, am I right, play with you? Is that right?
Yeah, well, I had an amazing amount of support from the fabulous Matt Long from Catfish as I was starting up. He's a great friend, and he and I wrote some material together so that I had something to kick off with. And he is, of course, very generous and lovely guy, and he joined the band for a bit. I then asked Kev Hickman, of course, the drummer of Catfish. I actually had seen him for the first time play as part of Matt Long and the Revenant Ones, and was blown away by his skill, but also his level of entertainment on stage. He doesn't just sit there quietly. Yeah, he's entertaining to watch, and I want people to come and really see a show. Yeah. I don't want to be the only animated person on stage. I want my band to really have fun. I want them to be animated on stage. I want people to really have a show when they come and see us. So I just thought he was the whole package. So I had the nerve to ask him if he'd like to be in my band, and he said yes. I'm very lucky, and he's been a great friend ever since. Adam Pike of Catfish, the bassist, he is very much a great friend, and he fills in for my wonderful bassist Josh when he can't do gigs. So I've worked heavily with them. Yeah, absolutely. Matt, unfortunately, due to certain health issues, of course, that Matt's been having, he has now taken a step back, and we now have our gorgeous new guitarist, Ollie Knightsmith, who plays with a lot of gorgeous other artists. And he's been a really wonderful addition to the team. He's settled in beautifully. He plays a lot more akin to the direction that I was hoping to go in as well, with the clean soul funk kind of feel rather than blues rock kind of direction.
And that's all good. And the second time, I'm sorry, I grabbed my notes. They're in about a million different
No,
places, so you
please,
have
I'm
to bear
such
with
an
me
over
1 second.
talker,
Oh,
so you
lovely.
must
It's great
stop
hearing
me
you
when
talk. Keep riffing on. You can't with Zoom. You can't talk over people. You have to sort of let it wait.
Sure, yeah.
Or it's just a kind of weird thing. The second time I saw you play live was at the Blues Awards, and that was really great. And it was really had a real power to your performance. And that was with, I think that was with most of the Catfish guys, or half of the Matt and Kev, I think, were playing on that.
Yeah,
And it was great hearing you play. And I'd mentioned the Janis Joplin thing, and I hate doing that. Like I said, you sound like, but you've got your own style completely. But like the intensity of your performance, and that was that was a drunken room. Everyone was really on it. It was booze coming from the ceilings. Everyone was just on it. But you really held the audience there with a really, really great performance. And can you talk a little bit about live performance? Because it's basically musicians now, that's how we survive, really, touring. But like, how does it work when you go on stage? Do you have a plan, or like do you kind of look what's in front of you and kind of work it out? How does it work? Is there a strategy you have, or does it vary? Or
there are a couple of things that I try to make sure I mention every time I perform. Usually it's an important part of a song's history, of how it came about, or obviously you have to sell merch as well, so you have to do the awkward kind of reminding people that you have a CD to sell. But other than that, I would say I try and keep it loosey-goosey so that every single audience...
What does that mean? I'm going to interrupt you. What's loosey-goosey?
Loosey-goosey.
What's that?
I mean, loosey-goosey is in non-scripted or...
right.
No plan whatsoever, I would say.
Loosey-goosey?
Loosey-goosey.
Never heard of that. I've not lived, have I? Sorry, is that a technical term, loosey-goosey?
It's absolutely a technical term.
Then. Sorry, carry on, loosey-goosey.
Drama kids, technical term. Okay. Yeah, no plan. Basically, I make things up on the spot the majority of the time. You'll if you come to a lot of gigs, you'll probably see a pattern in some of the things that I need to make sure I mention every time. But otherwise, you'll also see that every audience is unique, so every show is going to be unique. So yeah, it's a blessing and a curse that I'm absolutely comfortable. I'm really comfortable in front of a lot of people. I actually really struggle with one-to-one or small group interactions at parties and things, or meeting a couple of strangers for the first time in life. That I really struggle with. But if you put me in front of a room full of 100 to 1,000 people, no problem whatsoever. Actually, the bigger the audience, the more comfortable I am. I don't know why.
I think a lot of artists have that thing that we're on stage, it's like we're at home, but then put us in a normal situation, we're like, it's kind of scary. I feel like that a lot of my life.
On stage, being unusual is being unusual or a bit weird, or being the odd one out is a
part of the act.
It's part of the act. Makes you entertaining, makes you unique. But then in a social situation, especially with people who don't know you yet, it's a bit scary. But thankfully I can, as you're probably learning, I can talk the back end off of a horse. So I'm right on stage with ad-libbing and talking to people and
So that's a great answer. This series of interviews, I've interviewed a bunch of people and have every time made interviews different, obviously because it's different people. Sure. But the one question I've asked every single person is, this is kind of one question, but 100 questions in one. So you have to bear with me. The main question is, how do you work? How do you write? How do you create? Is there a schedule and a process by which you go by? Do you wake up every day and you're like, I've got to write this, I've got to do that, I've got to work on this, I've got to read that? I think there was a writer, I remember, Hemingway, I think, said he had to write 100 words a day. I don't know if he did that, but is there like a kind of like, do you have a schedule, or not a schedule, but like a process by which you create? Is there like a lucky notebook, or is it all on your phone? Or, like I said, there's a million questions in this question.
No,
yeah. How do you work?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's sort of, can you please boil your creative process down into a I I think I only really sit down and go, this is a songwriting session, when I am with another musician and we have organized to do that. We have booked time to sit in the same room together and do the thing. That's when I will sit down and I will furiously write lyrics. I'll start singing melodies. Usually it's with a person with an instrumentalist. They start playing things, or they might start playing based on a melody that I produce. The rest of the time, I'm constantly singing snatches of things. I would say every day, a tune or words will come to my mind, and I'll get them down as a voice memo on my phone. The voice memos on my phone, I dread to think how many I have. I have to shift through them all occasionally and rename them and order them and put them in order and stuff. I get large amounts of creative inspiration from just language in general. Mm-hmm. So if I hear a word that I think, oh, I've not heard that word before, I will then do a deep dive on its etymology and its meanings and definitions and things. And I love the sound of words, and I love languages. And I nerd out about literature and poetry and things a bit. So I'll get very excited about that. But I would say really the places that I get the most, or rather, the places that I get the most material out of is the shower, being in the shower and being in my car. If I'm doing a long drive, my phone, I'll have it, on my windscreen. And I'll have to be constantly taking vocal notes, because I'll be driving along singing to myself and writing things and coming up with lyrics and things. So I end up with about 16 or so recordings of snatches of melody or lyrics on a particular theme. And then when I get somewhere, I'll have to put them all into a structure of some kind. But then there's songs like Love Song, which is a ballad that I do, that I wrote in a matter of minutes, and very few songs come to me like that. It was like it was already written elsewhere and it was just coming through my brain. So some kind of medium or something. That one came out of me in minutes, and I wrote it down, recorded it all in voice memo, bridge and everything. And then I took that to Matt Long, who just put some chords underneath it, beautiful chords, and we had a song. That I look forward to the day where that happens again, because that didn't need any work whatsoever. So every single song is different. I could start with a snatch of a melody and jam it out with a musician and build something bigger. Mm-hmm. I could have an entire song, melody, arrangement, words and everything, and then have somebody put chords underneath. Or I could be presented with a piece of music by another musician, and then I'll write melody and lyrics over the top. It's always so different.
That's a great answer. Every musician has started off by saying, I don't have a process, and they go through what they say, and it's a process, but it's just their own individual.
That's true.
Just interviewed Matt Long and his dad, Paul, for the last interview, and they were like, I don't have a process, but I wake up at 4 a.m. and put something down. I'm like, that's a process. It's just your own process. It's interesting hearing different creative people talk about their creativity. I find that interesting.
I think I've spoken to the fabulous Georgia Van Etten. She once told me that she likes to sit down. She goes, I'm writing now. She'll put the lights down low. She might light some incense and things, and she puts herself in the frame of mind and the environment. And I think for myself, I think that all other musicians must be organized and have an actual process, a structured process that they write songs and have scheduled time and things. And I think maybe that's why musicians always start off saying they don't have a process, because we categorize process as ordered, a schedule and an order. Whereas really what we see is our creativity comes out of chaos, basically. But you're absolutely right. When you describe it, it does kind of boil down to a process. It's just not traditionally what you would consider a process, I guess.
Organized chaos.
Organized chaos, absolutely.
It is. So, Alice, thank you so much. I'm going to ask just a couple more things, and we'll wrap it up
Sure.
because I've been
I'll
told
try and
I
keep
talk
it
too
short.
long on these things. No, I'm the one who just gets chatting to people, and 4 hour podcast. Like, I enjoy. But anyway, what have you got coming up? 2023 and 24. What's happening?
Ooh, I'm not sure what I'm allowed to talk about yet.
Tell it all. I don't
But then
mind.
I'm my own boss, so
Tell
really I can just
everyone.
talk about
I won't tell anyone. I promise.
let's see. In the near future, in the next 2 days, I'm going to be doing this last minute support slot for Don Martin.
Great.
And then after that, I have a very intense songwriting weekend with the boys in the band. I've got a few songs on my phone that need to be turned into real tunes. So we're going to be getting into the studio. We're calling it band camp because we're all together for 3 days.
Yeah.
And then after that, I'm doing a lot of gigs. Christmas time is going to be very busy for me. I'm doing a lot of Christmas gigs.
Oh wow.
I'm very excited about that because I love Christmas. And at the moment, I've just released Love, Sex and Death, the EP, which was we released it in 1st of September of this year. It's done phenomenally well. I'm so happy. I'm sending those off to some more of them today. They're still selling. I'm sending more off every day. But I've already got the next EP in motion. We're going to be recording and releasing a couple more singles, and then I'm going to be working on an EP, which will have a bit more of a cohesive theme to it, especially production-wise. The EP, the last EP was produced by Paul Long and I'm so proud of it, so proud of it. We're going in a slightly different type of more analog sounding production with the fabulous Marco Cinelli. He's going to be producing my next EP. And I haven't actually announced that anywhere yet, so you're the first one.
Oh wow, that's from the Cinelli brothers, right?
Yes, Marco
Great.
Cinelli, the Cinelli brothers. I'm going to be working with him closely on the next EP, which I'm very excited about. So yeah, we're going to be writing furiously, rehearsing furiously. I don't know when that's going to come out. It will be next year, obviously. And onwards and upwards, basically.
Brilliant. Alice Armstrong, thank you so much for your time. It's been lovely.
Thank you very much for inviting me.